Sarvesham. All glories unto all the saints and sages, teachers of this eternal principles of righteous conduct. All glories to all the devas. All glories to all the devis. All glories to all aspiring souls. Thank you for joining me. The human being is a psychophysical organism. We have three bodies. This physical body that you see, and we have a body made up of our psychological state, senses, mind, intellect, ego. And we have an account of countless lives of good, evil, and devotional thoughts in a body within us called the causal body. This causal body is why we are experiencing whatever we are experiencing in this life in the form of suffering and joy. Suffering is caused by our sinful past deeds, and joy, happiness in this world, is caused by all the good things that we have done in the past lives. Our devotional practices from previous life determines whether we are atheistic right now or we are theistic right now. And the degree of godliness or ungodliness is presently and have been determined by our previous practices in our past lives. In the world, we know, and within ourselves, we can see that all actions are born of the actions of our mind, our thoughts, our desires, our intent, gives birth to physical actions. So if we address our mindset, if we rectify our mindset, then we can rectify our actions. In recent times, we have heard of psychologists such as Engels, Freud. But before these individuals, the saints of India, those who understood the human nature far more than these present-day psychologists, they understood what they're finding these days a long time ago. These are all written in the Vedas, which are comprised mainly of 4 books: Rig, Atharva, Yajur, and Samaveda. And a commentary on these Vedas were compiled by Ved Vyas 5,000 years ago in the form of the 18 Puranas. The 17th Purana is the Mahabharata, which was one of the Puranas that contained the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all knowledge, which was repeated by Lord Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this 700 verses were extracted from the Mahabharata by the original JagadGuru, Sri Shankaracharya. So all the thought patterns of human beings, whether good or evil, were clearly known by the saints of India. And we can see that all religion took birth from these Vedic texts. The saints understood that to attain love for God, the mind has to be purified. And we can understand that the mind is kept dirty mainly by our dirty thoughts, our dirty intentions. And they will remain unless we try to rectify this. So in the Vedas, the saints have outlined these various types of defects within our mind and in our thinking. The first one they have described is Kapura Charan, which means evil thoughts. And the second one is Adhyatmika Tushti. Where evil thoughts are concerned, they've even given it a subsidiary headline which is called Jimbhav. Jimbhav means evil thoughts in the mind while practicing devotion to God. You see, thoughts, whatever wrong thoughts we have, whatever thoughts we have, we share to a certain degree, maybe with our co-worker, some things about ourselves, isn't it? Or closer people to us, like a friend, we share even more intimate thoughts with them. And even more intimate thoughts with maybe our family members, and even more intimate thoughts maybe with our wife, our children. And the most intimate thoughts we share with no one. There are things that each one of us have done that are evil that we share with no one. Only God knows. And these thoughts are a great impediment in our hope to attain God's grace. These hidden thoughts force us into a kind of pretentious life because we can't be real. We cannot be true to ourselves, and it is required that above all else, one should be true to themselves. So unless we try to undo these by not doing these practices of having evil thoughts, which then brings about an evil action later, we will continue to live in a mire of wrongdoing helplessly. So the second fault that is described by the saints of India is that it's called Anitya Bhav, which is we hide faults. We live a life of being known as good. And this is preventing us from really trying to become good. What do I mean? We give charity on one hand, and we steal on the other hand. We speak to people when we meet them, when we introduce ourselves, we introduce all the good qualities that we have. We speak of all the good things that we have done. We never tell them of any of the bad things that we have done. This we keep hidden. Making great effort to behave appropriately and to say the right things of ourselves. Also, being driven by our ego, which is part of the subtle body of senses, mind, intellect. The ego is a part of the subtle body. Driven by ego, We point out the faults of others. This way we are indicating, without saying so, that we are better than them. And by so doing, this habit of fault finding in others is preventing us from rising above the ego. We become controlled by an egocentric mindset. It's why people go about discussing all the faults of others, and they never take a look at themselves. Because their ego is so firmly in place, so firmly in control of them, that it prevents them, it prevents us from looking at ourselves, from taking a look at our faults. After all, it's only when you take a look at your own faults, then you may be able to do something about changing your faults into goodness, to repent and to stop doing what you're doing. If you're continuing to look at the faults of others and you're satisfied with being known as good, you will continue to live a life of hypocrisy. The same faults we possess, you can only see it in others because you haven't taken a look at yourself yet. If you take a look at yourself, I tell you, you'll start seeing things differently. And then you can do something about rectifying your own faults, which will then allow you to receive the grace of God. Because God will not have anything to do with you until your mind becomes purified. When your mind is 10% purified, God will give you 10% of His grace. When it's 50% purified, He will give you 50% of His grace. When your mind is completely purified, which takes work, which takes our effort, which takes diligent effort to do that which pleases God, to not do anything that displeases God. All the scriptures have rules. The entire universe is controlled by rules. The sun, the moon, and all the countless solar systems are controlled by rules. Without rules, everything will be in chaos. We also have rules. Even a society, the laws of the society demand that you obey the stop signs. Or what will happen on the road? There will be chaos. Even if you're not godly, you should obey the laws of the society, or you will be jailed. So there's a need to obey the rules of nature and the rules of God if you want to attain God's complete grace. So the mind remains with a tendency of evil, that which we think we can hide from others. But believe me, one day or the other, every hidden thing will be exposed. So you might as well do it voluntarily and try to undo the faults you have by not continuing to be full of evil thoughts. There is no worse company than our own evil thoughts, which we think, because nobody are hearing them, then it's okay. I'm just thinking this way. I'm not doing anything. People sit with their wives and their children, their husbands and their children, their mothers and their fathers, and they have evil thoughts of them. And because no one can hear them, they think it's okay. I tell you, one day those evil thoughts will be great harm to yourselves. One must give up faults now. Start now. Or 1,000,000 lives from now. we will remain in the same condition. And we will be helplessly forced to do wrong things, which when an evil builds up, just like when anger grows, then you lose the ability to be reasonable and you will do something harmful to yourself or to others. You will become a helpless victim of your own evil. Because the evil that men do lives after them. Another flaw we have is public pretense, in which we pretend to be, I'm such a great devotee, I'm such a great lover of God, I've chanted my 64 rounds, we try to show devotional feelings, shed tears in public, speak of all the righteous sounding things that we would like others to believe about us. And I tell you, these feelings should be hidden. Hide your devotional love for God. Hide them so that they grow in your heart. Then there is a habit of hoping that we will gain God's grace just by believing in God. And what we call belief, we are practicing a kind of belief system without faith. God says in the scriptures, it is said that Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu Chasaka Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Drabinam Tvameva, Tvameva Saravam Mamadeva Deva. This wonderful mantra, which is repeated by all followers of Sanatan Dharma, is saying that God only is our true Father. Yes, of course. He granted your mother and father, gave you this physical body. But you that reside in this physical body, the soul, you're a child of God. So the mantra is rightly saying, and we repeat this, we say boldly that God alone is our mother, God alone is our father, God alone is our true friend, but yet we don't have faith in this. What do I mean that we don't have faith in this? Is that in reality we say this only in the church, only when we are offering a prayer, but our daily life is consisting of the family members that we have that are related to our body. We believe they are our mother and they are our father. And so we don't have faith in what we say. We are only using words without any faith in those words. We don't believe that God is our real father and our real mother. We believe our real mother and father is at home right now. That's because we have faith in them. You see, there's an example in the Mahabharata when Dushashan was dragging Draupadi by her hair into the court where there was a game of gambling going on between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Draupadi was dragged into the court by her hair by Dushashan. At that time, her husbands were there and she turned to the Pandavas. Now they had already lost themselves and they became slaves of Duryodhana. And their guilt kept them quiet. They couldn't say anything because they lost. Our evil prevents us from being manly. And so they kept quiet. Then Draupadi turned to the elders, Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. They too were silent. Why? Because they were servants of the king. They were servants of Duryodhana. Anyone that you're a servant of, you become inimical to them. You can't speak up. Just like us, our boss comes late every day, and we can't say anything, but you just come late one day, he will trash you with words, and you wish in your mind that you could give him a slap, but you can't because you will lose your job. So you become inimical to those who are in control of your life. And so the elders, they couldn't say anything as well. Then, with her self-effort, she put her sari in her mouth and bit onto it. Now, Draupadi is not an ordinary woman. Draupadi is Yajnasena, which means she was born of the religious function of a fire yajna, and she appeared out of that fire yajna. She is not an ordinary woman. So she was very powerful herself, but Dushashan, with the strength of 10,000 elephants, eventually the sari between her teeth started to slip. She tried to protect herself. She had faith in her power. And just as she gave up the faith of her husband, she gave up the faith of her elders. Now, when Dushashan ripped that sari from between her teeth, she threw her hands in the air and said, "E Dwarkavasini," which is a title of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, who was thousands of miles away having something to eat. When Rukmini said, "What's wrong? Is something wrong with the food? It looks as if you're smelling it." No, as one of my pure devotees is in a serious trouble. "Oh, why don't you go help that person? You always do that." "Yes, but they don't have complete faith right now in my protection. And my rule is that only when one is completely surrendered to me, not thinking of any other person as a source of help, not even thinking of themselves as a source of help, then I can intervene in that moment." So when Dushashan finally ripped that sari from between her teeth and she threw her hand in the air in complete submission, in complete surrender, with complete faith that now there's no one else to help me but God, then Sri Krishna appeared in the form of the same cloth that Dushashan was pulling from between her teeth into endless sari. He was trying to disrobe her and make her naked and publicly shame her. But he kept pulling and pulling and pulling, and the end of the sari never could take place. In fact, in the court room, the sari built up itself, filling up the whole room, and he became exhausted in trying to disrobe her, but he couldn't. So, my dear aspiring souls, when you are completely surrendered to God alone, and when you have complete faith in what you're saying to God, like you're saying, "You only are my friend, you only are my wealth, you only are my mother, you only are my father," when you really mean that and have faith in what you're saying, you'll experience the full grace of God. So far, we're just parroting words to God. We're repeating verses from the Bible, the Quran, the Gita, but we don't actually have faith in those words. And 100% faith is required to have 100% of God's grace. Right now, we have a big flaw called that when the time is right, we will immerse ourselves in complete devotion to God. When the young man is going to university, he said, look, I got to take care of my education. I can't, I can only go once every week to the church, and but I have to focus on my education. I don't have time to be serious right now. If, when he finishes the education, he got his certification, he got a job and he got married, then he said, listen, I have to take care of my family. That's my duty. And God demands that I take care of my duty. I can't be serious right now. When my children are old enough and they get married and I am free of this responsibility, I'll make a concerted effort in fulfilling the purpose of the soul, which is to attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. I will do it. But then grandchildren came. And now he got more attached to his grandchildren than even when he was taking care of his own children, because the loving thoughts and words of the young children, the grandchildren, is more endearing to him now than when he was taking care of his children, busy working to take care of them. So we blame time. This is called Kal Tushti. Then one of the biggest faults is Sharanavaran, which means that we keep acting one way for society, and internally we are thinking differently. We sit in the mandir, we sit in the temple, we sit in the masjid, and we have terrible thoughts of our compatriots, and we expect that God will be pleased with us. We can be right in front of the deity in the mandir, and we will gain no benefit of that, because God is not looking at our words and our behavior. He's looking at our mindset. So if we take care of rectifying our mindset, then everything else will fall into place naturally, and then we will be privileged to receive God's full grace. Thank you for joining me. Jai Shri Radhe.